Shalom, shalom, shalom. Most High in Christ bless. It's January 4th, 2023, and we are here again to worship the Most High on the Sabbath day. And so, like this video, share this video, subscribe to the channel, and leave comments. If you enjoy this content that we are sharing. If you don't enjoy this content, leave a comment and tell us why you don't enjoy, so that we can grow and so that we can ensure that what we are providing is stuff that is biblical, factual, and relevant for us to grow. We believe that what we are presenting falls in those three points: being biblical, being factual, and being relevant for us to grow as a nation of the children of Israel. But if for some reason you have a different opinion as to why it's not meeting the hitting those 3 points, by all means, share so that we can grow on our end to provide you with the best table food, the best home cooked meal for your mind and soul, coming from the Lord. All right, with no further ado, we're going to get into the reading of the laws, and then we're going to get into today's topic. Make sure you hit the like and share button. All right. Where do we leave off last time? Do you remember?
We are going to 534.
The laws. Ecclesiasticus chapter 39, verse 1. But he that giveth his mind to the law of the Most High, and is occupied in the meditation thereof, will seek out the wisdom of all the ancient, and be occupied in prophecies. He will keep the sayings of the renowned men, and where subtle parables are, he will be there also. He will seek out the secrets of grave sentences, and be conversant in dark parables. He shall serve among great men, and appear before princes. He will travel through strange countries, for he hath tried the good and the evil among men. Tell me one more time.
534. Not to
Intermediate.
Not to intermediate in a interest loan, okay, guarantee, witness, or write the promissory note. All right. Exodus 22 and 24. And my wrath shall wax hot. I will kill you with the sword, and your wives shall be widows, and your children fathers.
Lend to and borrow from idolaters with interest. Deuteronomy chapter 23, verse 21. When thou shalt vow a vow unto the Lord thy God, thou shalt not slack to pay it, for the Lord thy God will surely require it of thee, and it would be sin in thee.
The court must carry out the laws of the plaintiff. What is that? Admitter, or denier. Exodus 22 and 8. If the thief be not found, then the master of the house shall be brought unto the judges, to see whether he have put his hand unto his neighbor's goods.
Carry out the laws of the order of inheritance. Numbers chapter 27, verse 8. And thou shalt speak unto the children of Israel, saying, if a man die and have no son, then ye shall cause his inheritance to pass unto his daughter.
Appoint judges. Deuteronomy 16 and 18. Judge and officer shall thou make thee in all thy gates, which the Lord thy God giveth thee throughout thy tribes, and they shall judge the people with just judgment.
Not to appoint judges who are not familiar with judicial procedure. Deuteronomy chapter 1, verse 17. Ye shall not respect persons in judgment, but ye shall hear the small as well as the great. Ye shall not be afraid of the face of man, for the judgment is God's. And the cause that is too hard for you, bring it unto me, and I will hear it.
Decide by majority in a case of disagreement. Exodus 23 and 2. Thou shalt not follow a multitude to do evil, neither shalt thou speak in a case to decline after many to wrest judgment.
The court must not execute through a majority of one. At least a majority of two is required. Exodus chapter 23, verse 2. Thou shalt not follow a multitude to do evil, neither shalt thou speak in a cause to decline after many to wrest judgment.
A judge who presents an acquittal plea must not present an argument for the conviction in capital cases. I thought it was saying that, capital case. Deuteronomy 23 and 2. A bastard shall not enter into the congregation of the Lord. Even to his 10th generation shall he not enter into the congregation of the Lord.
The courts must carry out the death penalty of stoning. Deuteronomy chapter 22, verse 24. Then ye shall bring them both out unto the gate of that city, and ye shall stone them with stones that they die. The damsel, because she cried not, being in the city, and the man, because he hath humbled his neighbor's wife. So thou shalt put away evil from among you.
The courts must carry out the death penalty of burning. Leviticus 20 and 14. And if a man take a wife and her mother, it is wickedness. They shall be burnt with fire, both he and they, that there be no wickedness among you.
The courts must carry out the death penalty of the sword. Exodus chapter 21, verse 20. And if a man smite his servant or his maid with a rod, and he die under his hand, he shall be surely punished.
The court must carry out the death penalty of strangulation. Leviticus 20 and 10. In the man that committeth adultery with another man's wife, even he that committeth adultery with his neighbor's wife, the adulterer and the adulteress shall surely be put to death.
And Lord willing, we will start with 547 next time. Lord willing, we will start with 547 next time. All right. So tonight's topic, okay? This one, definitely be ready to take some good notes. We got some material that we definitely want to take looks at. And so make sure you got your paper and pencil so that you can take really good quality notes. The title for tonight's topic, Moving Beyond the Color Line. Moving Beyond the Color Line. Okay. We want to open up with Isaiah chapter 1, verse 1. 1 verse 1.
All right, get used to this. Isaiah 1 and 1. The book of Isaiah, chapter 1 and verse 1. The vision of Isaiah, the son of Amos, which he saw concerning Judah and Jerusalem in the days of Uzziah,
Uzziah.
Uzziah,
Mm-hmm.
Jotham,
Mm-hmm.
Ahaz, that's how I can say it, and Hezekiah, king of Judah.
Kings of Judah. So this time period, from a historical point of view, this time period is moving between 783 BC to 687 BC. So we're talking roughly 96 years. Roughly 96 years, we are looking at the writings, the workings of Isaiah. Now, but it says the vision of Isaiah, the son of Amos, and we get down to the bottom, kings of Judah. So we are looking at the prophecies, the things that are going to happen to the sons of Judah. Now, Judah is comprised of 3 tribes of Jacob. 3 tribes of Jacob. That's Judah, Benjamin, and Levi. Very quickly, go over to Hebrews chapter 8, verse 7. We want 7 and 8.
The book of Hebrews, chapter 7 and verse 8. I'm sorry, the book of Hebrews, chapter 8 and verse 7. But if that first covenant had been faultless, then should no place have been sought for the second. For finding fault with them, he saith, behold, the days come, saith the Lord, when I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah.
With the house of Israel and with the house of Judah. So where it says the house of Judah, we're talking about three tribes. We're talking about Judah, Benjamin, and Levi. We are talking about Judah, Benjamin, and Levi. They made up the house of Judah. Okay. And now to get even a little more specific, bear with me. Let me share this out. Now, the children of Israel, before I share this map, I want to show a map. I want to show this map. And before I share this map, go to Luke chapter 21. And verse 20. Luke chapter 21, verse 20.
The book of Luke, chapter 21 and verse 20. And when ye shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies, then know that the desolation thereof is nigh.
Now these are red letters, so this is Christ speaking. So Christ is foretelling what's going to happen. Christ is foretelling what's going to happen. And Jerusalem indeed became compassed, meaning circled. It was captured. By who? By the Roman army in 70 AD. By the Roman army in 70 AD. General Vespasian, the Emperor Vespasian, and General Titus had conquered Jerusalem in 70 AD. Go on to the next verse.
Luke 21 and 21. Then let them which are in Judah flee to the mountains, and let them which are in the midst of it depart out, and let not them that are in the countries enter thereinto.
One more.
For these be the days of vengeance, that all things which are written may be fulfilled.
Now it said, let them flee into the mountains. So fleeing into the mountains, this is making reference to the children, the house of Judah, uh, leaving out of Jerusalem and running into Africa. Okay, so that's what this passage is speaking about. So the children of Israel ran into Africa. So let me show this map. Okay, and we showed this map not too long ago in one of our previous videos back. One of the videos we did back in October-ish. We showed this map, but this map, here's an old map, and this is what it says. If I can get it, if I can size it. There we go. Okay. Are you able to read this, or is that print to squish? So it reads, a new and accurate map of what? Negro land. A new and accurate map of what? Negro land. And the adjacent countries also. Upper Guinea, showing the principal European settlements and distinguishing it with belong to England, Denmark, Holland, and the sea coast, and some of the rivers being drawn from surveys and the best modern maps and charts. Now this map comes from 1774, I believe. Don't quote me on the date. I saw the date when I was reviewing it earlier today, but right now my mind forgets the date. But this is an old map of Africa, okay? And you see right in this space where the cursor is moving, it says Negro land. It says Negro land. Now let me try to enlarge this. Okay. And so we see right here, which is modern day, I believe, Benin, and modern day Togo, I believe. In the previous video that we did several months ago, we overlaid it with a modern map. This says Kingdom of Judah, or Judah, it's spelled with a W, Slave Coast. And now here it is spelled again, Judah, showing you who the people were in the land. Showing you who the people were in the land. Okay? Now, with this in mind, knowing that a lot of slaves came from Negro land and from this region, I want to show another map. Okay, bear with me. Okay. Now, here's another map out of a book that we have. And this map is dated 17 1827 to 1863. I think this is the second map. So I got another map that I want to share out. I got another one, and I think this was part 2, if I'm not mistaken, and the other one that I will share in a second is part 1. Okay, this word is Judah, and look what they're saying: destinations of slaves and home ports of vessels carrying them. Okay, so here are the home ports. The blue is Americas, and the gold, or whatever that is Europe, who were going into where? Going into Judah. And we see that red dot right there, which is what we just looked at with the other map. And so we see in this time period, 582,000 slaves left this port, and came throughout North and South America. Okay, Rio de Janeiro, South America, Salvador, Trinidad, on into the islands, Cuba, and what do we have? 2,600 going into the Gulf Coast. That's Louisiana. That's going to be Louisiana area, Mississippi area. Then we have 3,300 going into the Carolinas and Georgia, 1,700 going into Chesapeake Bay. So we're talking Virginia, we're talking Maryland, and what have you. Okay. The scholars know apparently who went where and from where they came from. Mm-hmm. And what are they calling them? They're calling them Judah. Okay, I'm gonna share one more map.
So they're keeping a receipt, a logbook.
They're keeping a receipt. They are keeping a receipt. Ain't that something?
They had a bookkeeper to make sure that their money and their merchandise
was good. Okay, so here we go. Let me share this one. So like I said, that the photograph that I just shared was part 2. This one is part 1. Okay, and let's look at the date. This is part 1. So this one is 1659 to 1726. The other one went up to the 1800s. Okay, but the title is the same. Maybe get the size. Okay, so the title is once again Judah, destinations of slaves and home ports of vessels carrying them. Okay, and in the date. But look, where are they coming from? Out of the port of Judah. And even during this time period, it was 422,000. So we have 400,000, 500,000. We're talking a million souls between that total time period coming out of Judah. Okay, and during this time period, there were 3,100 going into the Gulf Coast, 800 going into the Chesapeake Bay. Okay, so when we like to argue and say that the Negro, the so-called African American man, woman, and child, you are descendants of Judah. And with other historical records and documents, we like to argue based on the evidence, okay, Not that we just want to pull a rabbit out of the hat, but we want to feel some kind of confidence in the things we speak and say. Okay, that the Negro, that the so-called African American, is of the tribe of Judah, and the Haitian is of the tribe of Levi, and the Jamaican or the Trinidadian is of the tribe of Benjamin. We just said moments ago, those three tribes make up the house of Judah that we read about in the book of Hebrews. Okay. Now, the reason we went through all of this is because Isaiah 1:1 said that he said these are the prophecies addressing the house of Judah, addressing the kings of Judah, that 96-year period. And the prophecies were going, some of the prophecies were going to happen during the lifetime of Isaiah. Some of the prophecies were going to happen after the lifetime of Isaiah. Okay? So now let's go to Isaiah chapter 1, verse 2.
The book of Isaiah, chapter 1 and verse 2. Hear, O heavens, and give ear, O earth, for the Lord has spoken. I have nourished and brought up children, and they have rebelled against me.
Look at that. The Most High is upset with the house of Judah. So much so that he says, hear, O heavens. So he's calling on the biggest things in the universe. He said, hear, O heaven, and give ear, O earth. This thing is big. This thing is huge. Okay? This thing is massive. The Lord has spoken it. I have nourished and brought up children, and they have rebelled against me. Right? So the Father is highly annoyed and angry, peeved with the children of Israel, especially the house of Judah. Okay. Now go to let's stay right here for a moment. The fact that the Most High raised the children of Israel, that be the house of Judah and the house of Israel, the entire nation of Israel. Go to Ezekiel chapter 16, and we're going to start at verse 1.
The book of Ezekiel, chapter 16 and verse 1.
Read.
Again, the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, Son of man, cause Jerusalem to know her abominations.
Her abominations. Cause Jerusalem to know her abominations. And when the Bible uses the term Jerusalem, primarily it is talking about the three tribes we just mentioned. It's because the southern kingdom was situated, geographically situated in that place around Jerusalem. The northern kingdom, well, they were north of Jerusalem. Okay, so continue reading.
Ezekiel 16 and 3. And say, thus saith the Lord unto Jerusalem, thy birth and thy nativity is of the land of Canaan. Thy father was an Amorite, and thy mother an Hittite.
Now, as the Most High is speaking this, or the Lord is speaking this, he's being nasty towards the children of Israel. He's going off. You nasty son of a something. He's going off on them. This, go ahead, read.
4. And as for thy nativity, if I said it right, in the day thou was born, thy navel was not cut, neither was thou washed in water to supple thee. Thank you. To supple thee. Thou was not salted at all, nor
swaddled at.
Swallowed at all. Thank you. No, none I pity thee, to do any of these unto thee, to have compassion upon thee, but thou was cast out in the open field, to the loathing of thy person in the day that thou was born.
Thou was cast out. No one cared for you. When you was born, you stank, you're ugly. No one cared about you. All the peoples of the land walked past you in disgust towards you. This is what he's saying. This is what the Lord is having Ezekiel to write. Go ahead.
Ezekiel 16:6. And when I passed by thee and saw thee polluted in thy own blood, I said unto thee, when thou wast in thy blood, live. Yea, I said unto thee, when thou wast in thy blood, live.
I said unto thee, live. I came along. I'm the one that took interest in you. I'm the one that loved you when thou was small among all the peoples. Read.
I was in 7, or did I pass?
16 and 7.
All right, yes, I am. I have cast thee to multiply as the bud.
I have caused thee to multiply.
Oh man, I have.
You need me to read?
No, I have caused thee to multiply as the bud of the field, and thou hast increased and waxen great, and thou art come to excellent ornaments. Thy breasts are fashioned, and thine hair is grown, whereas thou was naked and bare.
He said, look, I took care of you. I washed you up. I fed you, and so that you would mature and be healthy and strong. And look at you. You look like a beautiful little rosebud. Go ahead.
Ezekiel 16:8. Now when I passed by thee and looked upon thee, behold, thine time was the time of love, and I spread my skirt over thee and covered thy nakedness. Yea, I swear unto thee and entered into a covenant with thee, saith the Lord God, and thou becamest mine.
And when you grew up, when you became mature for me to take you as a wife, the nation of Israel. So this is obviously this is figurative. This is figurative speech. Okay, when you came of age and matured to be a wife, I groomed you to be my wife. All right, and you was looking lovely. Go ahead.
Ezekiel 16:9. Then washed I thee with water. Yea, I
thoroughly.
Thank you. I was going to say thoroughly. I thoroughly washed away the blood from thee, and I anointed thee with oil. I clothed thee also with broidered works, and shod thee with badger skin.
With badger skin,
And I girded thee about with fine linen, and I covered thee with silk. I decked thee also with ornaments, and bracelets?
And I put bracelets.
And I put bracelets upon thy hands and a chain on thy neck.
Look at that. I lavished you. I put you in a place where you were just not naturally beautiful, but I decked you so that when you went about, you looked good in your clothes and your jewelry. You was, oh man, every head was turning at you. That's my wife right there. Look at her. Look at her. Go ahead.
12. And I put a jewel on thy forehead, and earrings in thine ears, and a beautiful crown upon thy head. Thus was thou decked with gold and silver, and thy raiment was of fine linen, and silk, and embroidered work. Thou didst eat fine flour, and honey and oil, and thou was exceeding beautiful, and thou didst prosper into a kingdom. And when thy
and thy renown,
and thy renown went forth among the heathen for thy beauty, for it was perfect through my comeliness, which I had put upon thee, saith the Lord, Lord God.
Look at it. All the other nations see the beauty. Did you see her? You see, oh my God, she gorgeous, man. Yeah, man. Woo, 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 woo. Conversation, chatter. Read.
15. But thou didst trust in thine own beauty, and played this the harlot because of thy renown. And what is that?
And pouredst out thy fornications on everyone that passed by. His it was. Everybody that came by, every man that came in and said, hello, how are you? You got Google-eyed and gave him the nookie. What it says, everyone that passed by, his it was. You gave him the nookie. What's wrong with you? That's why I said, for that playlist, the harlot. You was a hoe with everybody. Go on, verse 16.
16. And of thy garments thou didst take, and deckest thy high places with diverse colors, and playedest the harlot thereupon. The like things shall not come, neither shall it be so. Thou hast also taken thy fair jewels of my gold and of my silver, which I had given thee, and madest to thyself images of men, and didst commit whoredom with them, and tookest thy garments, and was conversed
and coverest them, and thou hast set mine oil and mine incense before them. My meat also, which I gave thee, fine flour and oil and honey, wherewith I fed thee. Thou hast even set it before them for a sweet savor. And thus it was, saith the Lord God. All the stuff I gave you, you take my stuff and you want to go and parade it in front of another man? What the heck is wrong with you? Verse 20, read.
Moreover, thou hast taken thy son and thy daughters, whom thou hast borne unto me, and these hast thou sacrificed unto them to be devoured. Is this of thy whoredom a small matter?
Is this of thy whoredom a small matter? You took the children that you gave birth to, and you aborted them. You did away with them. Okay, now read verse 21.
Verse 21, that thou hast slain my children and delivered them to cause them to pass through the fire for them.
Now, pass through the fire, that expression is spoken several other times, especially like in Leviticus and Numbers, and it means abortion. Okay, it speaks about pass through the fire of Molech. It talks about Shemos, and when you do a deep study on that, it's talking about abortion. So now, where are we today with this thinking in mind? Because we are seeing where the children of Israel, no one cared about them at birth. The Lord cared about them at birth, washed them up, made sure that she would be would be healthy, and she blossomed into this beautiful woman. And when the time of love came, so here she is now, 18, 20, 22, 25, what have you. And she is going about, the nation of Israel, and she is giving herself to every other nation when she should be relying on who? The Most High God. Now, let's watch this. Let's see what we're talking about, because right now we're talking about abortion. Let me share this with you. Okay, bear with me. Say again.
Was that before Ezekiel?
No, we're gonna continue with Ezekiel.
All the way through.
We're gonna go for a while. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Okay. So now, here we are on this site, parentingmode.com abortion. Okay. And it reads, this is the abortion statistics in 2023. In 2023, this is the latest US data. Okay. It says about 930,160 legally induced abortions are provided annually in the US. 20.6% of all pregnancies in the US end in abortion. 61% of Americans believe abortion should be legal all or most of the time. The top reason for abortion, 25%, is not being ready for a child. And then the argument, the media, the politicians like to say, well, what if it's a case of rape? What if it's a case of rape? This statistic is saying that of the top reasons, it's less than 0.5%, which means less than 1% victim of rape as the cause for why abortion. Okay. Let me take us to that, what we were just looking at, and read it on where they have it just a little bit plainer. Here they have it in a grid. Reasons for abortion: not ready for a child. Look at that. This is the top reason at what? 25%. Can't afford a baby, 23%. Have completed childbearing, 19%. Don't want to be a single mother, but you opened your legs,
Right.
8%. Not mature enough to raise a child, 7%. Would interfere with education or my career, 4%. Physical health problems, 4%. Fetal health problems, 3%. Was a victim of rape, less than, or it's less than 0.5%. So really, just these right here are the only ones where we are talking about the health of the woman. Where we are talking about the health, and it says others, so we don't know what all constitute as others. We are talking about the health of the woman. This is not related to the health of the woman. If we're going to be purely objective here, we're going to call a spade and a heart a heart. This one says, I don't want to live with how someone violated me. That's what this one is about, being violated. But these reasons right here is purely selfish reasons. And these are the top reasons why women fight for abortion rights. Now, we came here because we want to look at racial statistics. Okay? We want to look at racial statistics. And they give us racial statistics. If I can find it. It's going to show the racial breakdown. Here we go. Okay. 38% of women, 38% of women perform an abortion, have an abortion performed on them. Black women. White women 33, Hispanic women 21, and others 7.2. Who is leading the charge are Black women, which we established at the very beginning. This is making reference to the house of Judah. And in particular, we make the argument that Black women is primarily talking about the tribe of Judah. And so in Ezekiel chapter 20, chapter 16, verse 20 and 21, let's go back to that.
The book of Ezekiel chapter 20, chapter 16, verse 21. Moreover, thou hast taken thy son and thy daughters, whom thou hast born unto me, and these hast thou sacrificed unto them to be devoured. Is this of thy whoredoms and small matter?
Is this of thy whoredoms a small matter? He says, no, this is not a small matter. This is huge. This is huge. Read.
21. And thou hast slain my children and delivered them to cause them to pass through the fire for them.
For them.
That's a question.
You have killed the offspring with your whoredoms. With your whoredoms. Okay. Continue reading. Verse 22.
And in all thine abomination and thy whoredoms thou hast not remembered the days of thy youth, when thou was naked and buried, and was polluted in thy blood. And it came to pass after all thy wickedness, woe, woe unto thee, saith the Lord God. Thou hast
that word woe means destruction. And it came unto thee. Destruction. Go ahead.
And thou hast also built unto thee an eminent place, and has made thee a high place in every street.
In every street. Speaking of what? A place of worship. A place of worship. Go on.
25. Thou hast built thy high place at every head of the way, and hast made thy beauty to be abhorred, and hast opened thy feet to everyone that passed by, and multiplied thy whoredoms.
And so now, the Most High is saying, in addition to your whoredom of abortion, you have also given yourself very whorishly to every man that come by, because you build this place of worship everywhere, and you worship every doggone thing, right? And so go to Exodus chapter 20, verse 3 and 4.
The book of Exodus, chapter 20 and verse 3. Thou shalt have no other gods before me.
Thou shalt have no other gods before me. So what we're reading in Ezekiel is that the children of Israel, you often have other gods, which are no gods. You often have these gods before you that you worship. Read.
Exodus 20 and 4. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image or any likeness of anything that is in the heavens above, all that is in the earth beneath, all that is in the waters under the earth.
Good, one more.
5. Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them. For I, the Lord thy God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of their fathers upon their children unto the third and fourth generations of them that hate me.
Now, what we just read, Exodus chapter 20, verse 3 through 5, what we just read, this thing right here will piss God off faster than anything. He says, do not have any other gods. Do not make any form, any shape of what's in the heavens above, on the earth, and yada, yada, yada. And do not bow down to these things. This will tick him off faster than anything. Okay? But what do? This is what we do. We give ear to anyone that come our way to hear who they worship, what they worship, how they worship, and we practice it and we try it out. Go to John chapter 4, verse 23 and 24. John chapter 4, verse 23 and 24.
The book of John, St. John, chapter 4, and verse 23. But the hour cometh, and now is, when the true worshipers shall worship the Father in spirit and in truth.
So the true worshipers will worship the Father in spirit and in truth. The true worshipers will worship the Father in spirit and in truth. Go on.
For the Father seeketh such to worship him. God is a spirit, and they that worship him must worship him in spirit and in truth.
See that? Okay. So now let's digest that a little bit, in spirit and in truth. Go to Romans chapter 10 and verse 2. Go ahead.
The book of Romans chapter 10 and verse 2. For I bear them record that they have a zeal of God, but not according to knowledge.
But not according to knowledge. They have a zeal for God, but not according to knowledge. Not according to knowledge. Okay? Now, let me share this. Bear with me. John 4, 23 through 24, Romans 10 and 2. Okay, let's share this. All right, so here is, this is from the Pew Research Center. This is the racial and ethnic composition among Christians, okay? So here is, they've researched, they do their studies to see who is going to church and what you believe and so on and so forth. All right. Now, let me get to the chart. This chart right here. Make it a little bit bigger. So this chart is asking the question, belief in God among Christians by race. Percentage of Christians who say they believe in God absolutely certain. Who's black folks? Judah. Okay. Believe in God, fairly certain. Who we talking? Latinos, which is Northern Kingdom. So who is the top is Judah and Latinos, because you fairly certain. Now, Caucasians say, yeah, they believe in God, absolutely, 76%. Okay. But look at this grid and how the numbers look for Judah. Okay. Believe in God, fairly certain. Not don't believe in God, don't know, or not too much, or not at all certain. Do not believe in God, don't know if they believe in God. Okay. And that portion is very small for Judah. Very small. Okay. We are in church by the buttload. We are there by the buttload. Read Romans chapter 10 and 2 once again.
Romans 10 and 2. For I reckon that they have a zeal of God, but not according to knowledge.
Not according to knowledge. The chart that I'm showing, who taught you religion? Who taught you? Your teaching comes from the tradition that was taught since the time period of slavery, the slave master, on to seminary school, the slave master, the Catholics, cemetery school. Right. Okay. So, but not according to knowledge. But we read earlier that in John chapter 4, 23 through 24, that we that worship him in spirit and in truth. Romans said, but not according to knowledge. Go to John chapter 6, verse 63.
The book of John chapter 6 and verse 63. It is the spirit that quickeneth, the flesh profited nothing. The words that I speak unto you, they are spirit and they are life.
See that? We see what spirit is. The words that I speak unto you, they are spirit and they are life. The words, it is the spirit that quickeneth, to revive, to make alive, to make anew. The spirit. But what is the spirit? It tells us right in the same passage. The words. And where are the words coming from? From the book. Okay. Go to Psalms chapter 119, verse 142.
The book of Psalms, chapter 119 and 142. Thy righteousness is an everlasting righteousness, and thy law is the truth.
And thy law is the truth. And thy law is the truth. Where do we learn the laws? In the first 5 books of the Bible, primarily. Right? We who worship him in spirit and in truth. Now, go to John chapter 16, verse 13.
The book of John, chapter 16 and verse 13. Howbeit when he, the Spirit of truth, is come, he will guide you into all truth.
When the Spirit of truth comes, he will guide, when the Spirit of truth is come, he will guide you into all truth. What? Back to the laws. Back to the laws. He's going to teach you the laws. Go on.
For he shall not speak of himself, but whatsoever he shall hear, that shall he speak, and he will show you things to come.
Whatsoever things he shall hear, that's what he's going to speak. The laws. Okay. Go to Proverbs chapter 12 and verse 17. Proverbs chapter 12 and verse 17.
The book of Proverbs chapter 12 and verse 17. He that speaketh truth show forth righteousness.
He that speaketh truth, he shows righteousness. Shows forth righteousness. He that speaketh truth showeth forth righteousness. Go on.
But a false witness deceit.
See there? Where's the measuring rod? The measuring rod are the laws. That's the standard by which we understand a thing to be the way to go or the thing to retreat from. That's the measuring rod, the laws. Go to Deuteronomy chapter 6 and verse 25.
The book of Deuteronomy chapter 6 and verse 25. And it shall be our righteousness if we observe to do all these commandments before the Lord our God, as he hath commanded us.
As he has commanded, it shall be our righteousness if we observe to do all these commandments. So here's the definition of righteousness. It all goes back to the keeping of the laws. The keeping of the laws. All right, so I shared seconds ago this chart. And look, blacks, this is where we are in the Christian church. Blacks, this is who we are in terms of generation. But showing you time and time again, it's us, it's Judah who is filling up the church house. But it's a sanctuary of dead folks. It's a sanctuary of lies. And we could do the same thing. I didn't pull it up, but of Islam in the like same fashion. Islam, Hinduism, mysticism, all these things have nothing to do with the true living God. Jehovah Witness, all these things have nothing to do with the true living God. Latter-day Saints, Seventh-day Adventists, okay? So now, go back to Ezekiel chapter 16.
I think we were at 26.
And the point of all what we just shared out is because God is saying, I'm ticked off with you. I'm ticked off with you and the abortions that you're doing. I'm ticked off with you and the false gods that you worship. Go on.
Ezekiel chapter 16 and verse 26. Thou hast also committed fornication with the Egyptians, thy neighbors, great of flesh, and has increased thy whoredom to provoke me to anger.
And I'm also ticked off with you because you go to other nations for help instead of relying on me. Read on.
27. Behold, therefore, I have stretched out my hand over thee, and have diminished thine ordinary food, and delivered thee unto the will of them that hate thee, the daughters of the Philistines, which are ashamed of thy lewd way. Thou hast plagued the whore also with the Assyrians, because thou wast unstable.
Unsatiable.
I'm sorry.
Meaning you had a lust, you had an envious lust. You wanted the things that they have instead of taking the time to rebuild what you need. Instead of taking the time for the Lord to bless you in his time. You looked across the field and saw that the grass was greener and you thought, I want to be like that. Unsatiable. Go ahead.
Unsatiable. Yea, thou hast played the harlot with them, and yet couldst not be satisfied.
And could not be satisfied. And could not be satisfied. Okay. So now, he said, we're in verse 27. Behold, therefore, I have stretched out my hand over thee, and have diminished thine ordinary food. Because you run to them instead of coming to me, I diminish your ordinary food, and delivered thee unto the will of them that hate thee. I've delivered you into the will of them that hate you. All right. So let's check this out. With me. Bear with me. Bear with me. Oh, man.
Going back to something I jotted down, John 6:63. It is the spirit that quickeneth. Let me go there real quick. Sorry. John 3. I'm sorry. John 6:63. It is the spirit that quickeneth. The flesh profited nothing. Oh, you ready?
Go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead.
All right. Okay. So, all right. So here's the statistic I want to show. Okay. So this is BrandonGale.com, welfare statistics by race, state, and payment. Okay. And it says, is that large enough? Let me make it a little bit larger. All right. There are approximately 12.8 million Americans on welfare, accounting for 4.1% of the US population. An estimated 131.9 billion is spent by the government on welfare each year. Here's the demographics of it, right? Judah is 39.8% reliant 39.8% reliant on welfare, SNAP program. Now, Judah only makes up 13% of the total population of the United States. So where it says Caucasian, yeah, but white people are 38%, yes, but white people are 77% of the total population of the United States. So what does that look like? If the US population, let me make sure I get this
Calculated right
get the
well, back to John.
I got it. Okay. If the US population is, what is the US population? Three hundred and 332 million. 332 million. Okay, that's the total population. Now, 77%. So 255 million are Caucasians. 38% of this, 38. These are white folks on welfare. White folks on welfare. Okay. Now, Judah, on the other hand, here's the total population. Judah is comprised of 13%. So this is 43,160,000. The number of folks on welfare $17,000. That's a huge 17 million. That's a huge number. That's a huge number. Okay. So back to the first graph that we were looking at. $39.8% Blacks on welfare. The average duration, less than 7 months, 19%, 7 to 12 months, 15%, 1 to 2 years, 19%, 2 to 5 years, 27%, over 5 years, 20%. And we probably, I'm taking a stab, I'm speculating, we're probably the number one folks in this category. I'm speculating, which means I could be wrong. Okay. So it says that our food, he said, why? Because we don't rely on the Most High. In verse 20, 8, thou hast played the whore also with the Assyrians, with America. Because there are other passages in Esdras where Assyrians is making reference, even in Ezekiel, is making reference to who? America in this for this time period. Yes, there was a historical people called the Assyrians, yes, but prophetically, we're talking about right here, right now. Okay, go to nope, I want to show one more. I'll show another statistic with all of this in mind. Yeah, we'll be going to 29. Stay with me now.
I just want to go back to where we were.
Okay. So now, here's this other statistic from CNBC.com. This is 2020. And it's telling us 13% of Black people are out of work, out of work or getting unemployment benefits during the pandemic. Only 13%. Okay. It reads, months of failure to control the coronavirus pandemic destruction in the U.S. has resulted in historic levels of high unemployment. Roughly 27 million Americans are receiving jobless benefits, and nearly half of the people are people out of work no longer expect to return to their previous jobs. But just like the virus' outsized impact on the health of communities of color, the unemployment crisis is in a number of ways worse among Black Americans, who are disproportionately more likely to be unemployed, but are also least likely to receive jobless benefits. Just 13% of Black people out of work from April to June received unemployment benefits, compared to 24% of white workers. So of that 99 million, 24% white folk received benefits. Of that 17 million, 13% Judah received benefits. Okay. And so this is the reality of what we are dealing with. All right. Go back to Ezekiel chapter 16, verse 29.
The book of Ezekiel, chapter 16 and verse 29. Thou hast moreover multiplied thy fornication in the land of Canaan unto
Chaldea.
And yet thou was not satisfied herewith. How weak is thine heart?
How weak is thine heart? How fearful are you? Fearful, greedy, envious. You hate your people. You hate yourself. And you lack discipline and patience. How weak is thine heart? Read.
Saith the Lord God, seeing thou dost all these things, the work of an
imperious,
whorish woman.
Imperious, that word imperious means domineering in a haughty manner. Domineering in you're a woman and you behave like a man. You a boss chick.
Huh.
You a boss chick is what you are. Imperious. And we don't say boss chick with affection.
Right.
Okay. Continue.
31. In that thou buildest thine eminent place in the head of every way, and makest thine high place in every street.
So you constantly, you make your head, your eminent place, right? The place of worship in every street. You run the massa. Massa, we'll put a church right here, and we'll liquor store on the other side. Read.
And has not been as an harlot in that thou scornest hire, but as a wife that committeth adultery, which taketh strangers instead of her husband.
See there? You going to strangers for help instead of coming to your husband for help. The Most High is your husband. And you're going to strangers for help instead of coming to your husband for help. You're going and begging him for handouts instead of coming to your husband begging for handouts. You don't want to come to your husband because your husband says you better do A, B, C, X, Y, Z.
Your husband being the Lord God.
Right. So your husband says, you in my house, we have rules that you must obey. And you don't like that. You don't like that. So you buck and rail. And you go to another man, polluting yourself. And in the process, what's becoming of you? We just looked at some statistics of SNAP, unemployment. We just looked at some statistics. Okay. Continue reading. 33.
Ezekiel 16 and 33. They give gifts to all whores, but thou givest thy gifts to all thy lovers.
To all thy lovers. You give your gifts to any and everybody. Everybody you open your legs to, that's who you're giving your gifts to. To all your lovers. You spread yourself thin. You ain't got nothing. You can't retain nothing when you're working like that. Read.
And hires them that they may come unto thee on every side for thy whoredom.
Go on.
And the contrary is in thee from other women in thy whoredoms, whereas none followeth thee to commit whoredom.
The other nations, they not behaving like that. The other nations, they stay within their nation. That's why you have a Chinatown. That's why you have a little Italy. That's why you have all these other communities who are doing business within their own sphere of people, their own family of people. Not us. Not us. We take our money to the Chinese man because we want a box of fried rice. Why don't we have restaurants for fried rice if that's what we like? If we want stir-fried food, why don't we create restaurants to serve stir-fried food if that's what we want?
And who can make it better than us?
Who can make it better? Right? But no, we take our money to the other nations. For everything, we take our money to, and we willingly allow the other nations to come into our neighborhoods and set up shop. Gas stations, liquor stores, grocery stores. We let them come into our community. And then if we don't have those things in our community, we kick, rave, and yell and holler and scream and say, how come we don't have a Walmart in our neighborhood? This is what we do. We go banging on the door at the mayor's office. We need these things in our community. Why don't you build it yourself? Go on, read.
When we start at the top.
Yeah.
Ezekiel 16 and 34. And the contrary is in thee from other women in thy whoredoms, whereas none followeth thee to commit whoredom. And in that thou givest a reward, and no reward is given unto thee. Therefore thou art contrary.
Therefore thou art contrary. There's no reward given to you. You take all your money and you go give it to others. No one's bringing their money to you. So your money comes in, you labor for income, and then you take that and you go give it away. Read.
35. Wherefore, O harlot, hear the words of the Lord.
Wherefore, O harlot, hear the word of the Lord. He said, wherefore, O harlot. He called us a harlot. Called us a harlot. Go back to Isaiah chapter 1. Start at verse 3.
The book of Isaiah, chapter 1 and verse 3. The ox knoweth his owner, and the ass his master's crib. But Israel does not know. My people does not consider.
We read this passage a lot. We read this passage a lot. And if you follow us, you've heard us expound on this passage a whole lot. If this is your first time hearing us with this passage, the ox knoweth his owner. This is a dumb animal. And the ass is master's crib, another dumb animal. But yet they know where home is. But Israel doth not know, my people doth not consider. We don't know where home is. We won't even consider where home is. We are content in the whoredoms that we have. Okay, go on.
Isaiah 1 and 4. Sinful nation.
Sinful nation. Speaking about us. Sinful nation. Go on.
Sinful nation, a people laden with iniquity, a seed of evildoers, children that are corrupters. They have forsaken the Lord. They have provoked the Holy One of Israel unto anger. They are gone away backward.
They have gone away backward. You're not prospering. You're not progressing forward. No, you're diminishing. You're losing. Your wealth is gone. And the little wealth that you may even have is diminishing. Go on.
5. Why should you be stricken anymore? Ye will revolt more and more. And the whole head is sick, and the whole heart faint.
Why should you be stricken? Why? That's a good question. Why should we continue to be stricken? When the solution is repent and turn to the Lord. Repent. Turn from your iniquity and do as the Lord hath commanded us. Okay. But let's look at some more. Let's look at some more. Let's bring things even more current. Okay.
Some more current stat.
And this we want to go to, all right, 501. Okay, so this one, the black tax, the cost of being black in America with Sean Rochester. Now, this is a fairly new book that this man has put out. And so he's going to give us some very hard things. We'll start right there. I want to start at 501 is where I wanted to start. So here we go. I wanted to start at 501.
Why is this of particular importance? Because one, we're missing about 6 million jobs across the broader Black community in America. We're missing about 1 point.
So notice what he said. He says, he's talking about economic things, right? And he says, so write this down, write this down, write this down. We are missing 6 million jobs across America. We, blacks, African Americans, Negroes, or as we say, Israelites of the tribe of Judah. We are missing, according to him and his studies, we are missing 6 million jobs across America. Okay, let's continue.
0.4 million businesses with employees.
He says we are missing 1.4 million businesses with employees. We're missing 1.4 million businesses with employees. Okay, let's go on.
So while there are about 2.6 million Black businesses in the country, only about 4% of those businesses, about 109,000, actually have employees. And that 4% drives almost 70% of all revenues that's driven by Black enterprise and employ almost 1 million people. So those businesses are super critical. And we only have about 109,000 of them. And we're missing about 1.4 million. And then collectively, our collective balance sheets, we're missing about or over $8 trillion net worth.
Okay, so now, so this man, in this little bitty short amount of time that he spoke, there are 6 bullets. I spoke 2 of them already. The first one, blacks are missing 6 million jobs across America. Blacks are missing 1.4 million businesses with employees. The next bullet, 2.6 million Black businesses. Of that, only 4% actually have employees. So only 109,000 businesses actually have employees. The other, the remaining balance of that 2.6 million, those are mom and pop shops where it's just, the man or the woman who operate that business. And so what they have done is just created a job for themselves. But it's not a business that facilitates other people. It doesn't train other people. It doesn't empower other people. Okay? He says that 4% drives 70%. That 4% drives 70% of the revenue in the black world. And it employs about only 1 million people. Now, he also said that collectively, well, he said the fifth thing, he said, he repeated himself saying that we are missing 1.4 million businesses. And then the final bullet, he said, collectively, blacks are missing about $8 trillion of net worth. blacks are missing about $8 trillion of net worth. Okay. Now, let's continue with what this man is talking about. All right. I want to start. Okay. So here we go.
Difficult to work with folks who A, don't see the problem, or B, think you're the problem. If you would only fix you, then we would be great. Right?
He says this, all this data that I just gave you, he said this is huge. And because it's so huge, we need a lot of people to help us solve the problem. He said, but the problem is, he said, there's a problem even with that. And that problem is difficult to solve a problem if people think the problem does not exist or that you are the problem. You are the problem. You won't pull yourself up by the bootstraps. You won't go and seek out a job. You won't take yourself to school and get an education. You're the problem.
Or you will only help you.
Well, that's not what he said. I'm simply quoting him. I'm simply quoting him, paraphrasing him. Okay. And so then he gives these 3 bullets that white people speak. So here we go. Let's continue to listen.
Right? And I'm sure we've heard these platitudes. You know, Black folks are really just not trying hard enough. And quite frankly, that has more to do with getting ahead than anything that's associated with discrimination. You know, 6 in 10 Americans believe that over that. You may have heard that, you know, Black folks have the same opportunities or even better, quite frankly, than anybody else to get ahead. Another 6 in 10 Americans believe that. Or you may have heard, listen, quite frankly, Black people use racism as an excuse for failure. The failure is mine. I refuse to take responsibilities for my actions. I wind up blaming everybody else. I'm not the only person who's been discriminated against. We're not the only people who've had a difficult time in the country, but other people have managed to progress in substantial ways, and we haven't. 7 in 10 Americans.
So, right. So here he says, these are the folks who say that the problem does not exist or you're the problem. And this first one, he says, Blacks not trying hard enough was more to blame for their not getting ahead than any racial discrimination. And this, he shows, was a Pew Research Center statistic. 63% of white Americans believe that phrase. The next one, Blacks have the same or better chance than whites to get ahead in America. 61% of white Americans believe that, according to a CBS News poll. And third, Blacks use racism as an excuse for failure. 70% of white Americans believe that. So what he's arguing is, how in the heck can we get ahead? We constantly going to the white man for help, but the white man, by and by, he believes what he believes. which go back to Ezekiel. That was Ezekiel 16.
Yeah, 36, I believe it was.
Nah. Nope. Ezekiel 26.
26?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Going back to 26. Ezekiel 16 and 26. Thou hast also committed fornication with the Egyptians, thy neighbors, great of flesh.
This is talking about in Ezekiel, what this is talking about is talking about what this man is talking about in the video. How we constantly go to our neighbor begging and pleading for a handout, begging and pleading for help instead of going to the Father. Jump to 28, because 28 is saying the same thing.
Ezekiel 16 and 28. Thou hast played the whore also with the Assyrians, because thou wast unsatiable.
Uh-huh.
Yea, thou hast played the harlot with them, and yet couldst not be satisfied.
Because we want to participate in their political process instead of trying to establish our own. That's the unsatiable part. We envy their setup.
Yes.
Everything that they have, all the systems that they have, we envy. We try to emulate that instead of being patient to set up our own. We want it now. That's the whole point of the word unsatiable. Could not be satisfied. Okay? Now, let's continue with this brother. So, okay, here we go. Here he says, this is a quote that he starts off, or a question that he starts off with. Here's a question that he starts off with. Pay attention to this question.
Either we are colossally and consistently inept, or there is something else happening in the environment.
So he's saying, how is it that 400 years have gone past and you have not prospered? Either you are inept or there's something else going on in the environment. Okay? Check that out again.
So in that spirit, let's talk about it. And the portion of it that I want to address tonight is this. How is it that after 400 years, over 40 million African Americans only own about 2% of U.S. wealth?
How is it we only own 2% of U.S. wealth? How? In this day and age, this is current.
Either we are colossally and consistently inept, or there is something else happening in the environment that we need to take a closer look at. So we're going to take a closer look at that environment. So the first thing we're going to need to do is kind of go back in time. Go back to the time of slavery.
Okay, and so write this down. Write this down. So the things that he's going to discuss, talk about, okay, throughout his presentation, 5 things he's going to he's going to point to slavery, the Homestead Act of 1862, Jim Crow with its various propaganda tactics and laws, number 4, education, and number 5, housing. Let me say them once again. He's going to talk about, he has 5 bullets that he's going to really hunker down on and focus to show what the things are that is causing 2% wealth. Slavery, the Homestead Act of 1862, Jim Crow with its various propaganda tactics and laws, education, and housing. Okay. So he's arguing that African American impoverished state of being is due to systematic racism. That's what he's basically arguing. Okay. So now let's shift to another scholar. This scholar that we just saw is a very current scholar. And let's go back in time a little bit, roughly 1 to 2, maybe 3 generations ago. Maybe 3 generations ago. Okay, from where we are today, that is, from where we are today. Let's go to another, because this theme of us being impoverished, this is not brand new. That's why he asked the question, how is it that 400 years you have only 2% wealth? So in the 1950s, this question was asked. This was studied. All right. So for this, we want to go come here. And let's see if I can make this any larger. There we go. As large as I can make it, hopefully. Okay. So now this book called Black Metropolis, a study of Negro life in a northern city. Okay. Written by Drake and Caden. This book is first published in 1945. It was revised in 62 and then revised in 70. And then the foreword was written, this was added in 2015. This foreword was added in 2015. We won't read the foreword. Okay. Now, this guy, Horace Caden, he's going to do a study, going and examining the Negroes of the North and how they are living life, how they are in subjugation to whites and so forth. Um, this is after World War I, after World War II, and how these folks are living, what the lifestyle is all about. Okay, so it's an examination. It's a study examining. It's there were questions asked, so they did surveys. They actually interviewed interviewed the inhabitants. All right, let's start with let me go here. Right here. I thought I just had it. Bear with me. Make sure I get it. Where's that? There we go. All right. Okay, so let's start right here. It says other factors. Now, in these, so once again, just to so that we all have some context, blacks with the New Deal, due to the New Deal, due to the WPA, Workers Progress Association, they flee the South and run to the North, primarily Chicago, Detroit,
Yeah, I was gonna say Detroit.
and so forth, St. Louis, but they left the South, and Chicago became the hotbed for where many of these migrants left and landed.
Migrants being those that
Left the South, the blacks that left the South. Other factors than the economic cycle help to disillusion the migrants. They found that though Midwest metropolis was less prejudiced than the South, it too drew the color line. So in the South, the color line was in your face. Signs posted everywhere. In the North, there's a color line, but that line is not, it's hidden. You don't know it. It's an invisible line, and you don't recognize it until you run into it. And you ran into it often, but you just don't know it's coming until you run into it. They found that, here we are. They were freer than in the South, but not completely free. They found equality, but not complete equality. As we saw in part one, Midwest metropolis has always been somewhat uncertain about what place Negroes should have in the city's life. The result is a color line which marks Negroes off as a segregated group deemed undesirable for free association with white people in many types of relationships. The color line also serves to subordinate Negroes by denying them the right to compete as individuals on equal terms with white people for economic and political power. Color line keeps the Negro in check. The color line keeps the Negro at 2% growth. Okay. Now, let's go right here. Why, it might be asked, do Negroes continue migrating to Chicago in the face of a color line? Now, earlier in the book, we see all the different responses from the people when they were asked, why are you going to Chicago constantly? Okay. And because it's better, it's freer, it's this, it's that. Okay. And so which is why he uses the term disillusion. So these folks, what's wrong with them? That's really the thinking. Okay. The simple answer, the answer is simple. That line is far less rigid than in the South. It will not be soon, too, that although Midwest metropolis has a color line, the Negro masses are not deprived of an education and are actually encouraged to vote. The color line is not static. It bends and buckles and sometimes breaks. The process results in tension, but the very existence of the tension and even of the violence that sometimes results is evidence of democracy at work. Okay. Now, so there is the riots of 1919. The riots of 1919. This will kind of give us some context to what and why he's asking the question that he's asking. Why are you guys running up north the way you are? So throughout the United States, there are these riots of 1919. Okay. In Chicago in particular, since this author is spending the most of his concentration in Chicago and Milwaukee and Detroit. The Chicago race riot of 1919 was a violent racial conflict between white Americans and Black Americans that began on the south side of Chicago, Illinois on July 27th and ended on August 3rd, 1919. During the riot, 38 people died, 23 Blacks and 15 whites. Over the week, injuries attributed to the episodic confrontations stood at 537, 2/3 Black and one-third white, and between 1,000 and 2,000 residents, most of them Black, lost their homes. Due to its sustained violence and widespread economic impact, it is considered the worst of the scores of riots and civil disturbance across the United States during the Red Summer of 1919. So named because of its racial and labor violence. It was also one of the worst riots in the history of Illinois. Okay, and I do want to show these photographs. Here they stone a man to death. Okay, Here's a gang gang looking for African Americans. Okay. Um, but before I do want to show some photos, but I want to go here first. I'm gonna go here. Yeah, East St. Louis. So, because this thing is not just Chicago. Okay, what are we doing? We're getting some context to uh, Caden, the author Caden, and why he's surveying the people the way he's surveying them. Red Summer was a period in mid-1919 during which white supremacist terrorism and racial riots occurred in more than 36 cities across the United States and in one rural county in Arkansas. The term Red Summer was coined by civil rights activist and author James Weldon Johnson, who had been employed as a field secretary by the NAACP, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, since 1916. In 1919, he organized peaceful protests against the racial violence. In most instances, attacks consisted of white on black violence. In most instances, attacks consisted of white on black violence. Numerous African Americans fought back, notably in the Chicago and Washington, D.C. race riots, which resulted in 38 and 15 deaths, respectively, along with even more injuries and extensive property damage in Chicago. Still, the highest number of fatalities occurred in the rural area around Elaine, Arkansas, where an estimated 100 to 240 Black people and 5 white people were killed, an event known as the Elaine Massacre. Okay? Oh, this one here. This one. Georgia whites burned 5 Negro churches, and they're standing there as watching the barbecue. Standing there.
Like a human body, right?
That is a human body. That's why I say watching the barbecue. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Let's go here to the events. In the autumn of 1919, following the violence-fueled summer, George Edmund Haynes reported on the events as a prelude to an investigation by the U.S. Senate Committee on the Judiciary. He identified 38 separate racial riots against Blacks in widely scattered cities in which whites attacked Black people. Unlike earlier racial riots against Blacks in U.S. history, the 1919 events were among the first in which Black people in number resisted white attacks and fought back. A. Philip Randolph, a civil rights activist and leader of the Brotherhood of Sleeping Car Porters, publicly defended the right of Black people to self-defense. In addition, Haynes reported that between January 1st and September 14th, 1919, white mobs lynched at least 43 African Americans, with 16 hanged and others shot. And another 8 men were burned at the stake. The stakes were unwilling to interfere, or the states, Georgia, Arkansas, Illinois, Texas. The states were unwilling to interfere or prosecute such mob murders. In May, following the first serious racial incident, W.E.B. Du Bois published his essay, Returning Soldiers. Du Bois, if you speak it French, we return from the slavery of uniform, which the world's madness demand us to don, to the freedom of civil guard. We stand again to look America squarely in the face and call a spade a spade. We sing, "This country of ours, despite all its better souls have done and dreamed, is yet a shameful land." We return. We return from fighting. We return fighting. We come back and we're fighting the man that lives across the street from us, who looks different than me.
You serve your country side by side with that man in battle and war, but when you come back home to America, that same person that you fought beside, that's now your neighbor you fighting against.
Right, right.
Because of racial.
There you go. There you go. So he said, and so it goes on. All right. Early riot events, April 13th through July 14th. April 13th in rural Georgia, the riot of Jenkins County led to 6 deaths and the destruction of various property by arson. Burn it down, including the Carswell Grove Baptist Church and 3 Black Masonic lodges in Millen, Georgia. Here is another example, though. This right here, every street corner, you are putting up your high places, your sanctuaries. So it's not just the Christian church and Islam. These are examples too. Moving on. May 10th, the Charleston riot resulted in the injury of 5 white and 18 Black men, along with the death of 3 others, Isaac Doctor, William Brown, and James Talbot, all Black. Following the riot, the city of Charleston, South Carolina, imposed martial law. A naval investigation found that 4 U.S. sailors and 1 civilian, all white men, initiated the riot. But martial law was imposed on who? The coloreds. Early July, a white race riot in Longview, Texas, led to the death of at least 4 men and destroyed the African-American housing district in the town. July 3rd, local police in Bisbee, Arizona, attacked the 10th U.S. Cavalry, an African-American unit known as the Buffalo Soldiers, formed in 1866. And July 14th, the Garfield Park riot took place in Garfield Park, Indianapolis, where multiple people, including a 7-year-old girl, were wounded when gunfire broke out. Right? This is what's going on. Here are images. You have a soldier, okay, confronted by this white man. You have, I mean, just look at this. Lynching, stoning, burning. In Chicago, here's that color line. A lot of stuff, a lot of things was happening at the beach. You can't use this beach, or don't bring your black butt on this portion of the water. A lot of that was going on, okay? We have the map of where a lot of this took place. All this is happening during the summer of 1919. All of this is happening during the summer of 1919. Okay? All right. Let's get back to the book.
No wonder it's called Red Summer.
Red Summer. Let me get to the book. All right. So he asked the question. He said, why are you all coming? Why are you fleeing to Chicago, to the north? And many of the folks responded saying, it's better. Yeah, all this is going on, but it's better. This is better. Okay. So let me read this again. He says, why, it might be asked, do Negroes continue migrating to Chicago in the face of a color line? The answer is simple. That line is far less rigid than in the South. It will be seen, too, that although Midwest metropolis has a color line, the Negro masses are not deprived of an education and or actually encouraged to vote. The color line is not static. It bends and buckles and sometimes breaks. This process results in tension, but the very existence of the tension and even of the violence that sometimes results is evidence of democracy at work. So it goes freedom to come, freedom to go. Let me read a little bit of this. In the South, Negroes are constantly reminded that they have a place and they are expected to stay in it, which is what I mentioned earlier. You got all the signage, there's all the formalities and greetings and so on and so forth. This is what he says. He says, and they expect to stay in the Midwest metropolis. They have a much wider area of freedom to come and go. The city is not plastered with signs pointing colored here, white there. On elevated trains and streetcars, Negroes and whites push and shove, sandwich themselves in, and scramble for seats with a common disregard of age, sex, or color. At ballparks, wrestling and boxing arenas, racetracks and basketball courts and other spots where crowds congregate as spectators, Negroes will be found sitting where they please, booing and applauding, cheering and razzing with as little restraint as their white fellows. This same absence of segregation prevails in virtually all of the city theaters and movie houses. But in the South, no, you can't come. Whites only. There's a passage where it said that white Southerners, white men, you had to address them. You couldn't address them by their first name.
Mr. So-and-so.
Mr. So-and-so. Meanwhile, you was being called boy. Boy.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. Let's go. Let me find this. Yeah. What the heck is this all about? Right? Come on, computer. There we go. No, that's there we go. All right, so let me read a little bit of this. As we have pointed out earlier in this chapter, the color line is seldom drawn in theaters or at large athletic events. But in amusement places such as roller skating rinks, bowling alleys, and public dance halls, there is a rigid line. All these are recreational situations that emphasize active participation rather than merely looking on. Because he said, you know, you can go to libraries freely in the North. And even some restaurants you could come to in the North and not be, you know, harassed.
Yeah.
You can go to the park and to the beach, certain locations, and not be harassed. Certain locations,
Yeah.
right? He said, but here, all these are recreational situations that emphasize active participation rather than merely looking on, and in which men and women participate together. The significance of this distinction will appear after our discussion of social equality. Okay, that was the chapter on social equality is where you call me, you don't call me by my first name.
Right.
Okay, we won't go into that chapter. All right. As mentioned previously, Negroes use the city's popular priced restaurants freely and without embarrassment. There are restaurants, however, as well as taverns, nightclubs, cocktail lounges, beer parlors, and similar spots that do not welcome colored patronage. During the 5 years preceding the Second War, numerous cases were verified of restaurants and taverns refusing to serve Negroes. Some drew the color line openly. This is in the North. This is in the North. Others resorted to subterfuge. Some proprietors or employees, for instance, would not turn Negro customers away, but just tried to make them so uncomfortable that they would never return. Okay, so let's look at a couple of these. Here we have this one. 2 Negro colored school teachers and several white friends attend a luncheon at an exclusive coffee shop. Today, that would be Starbucks.
Mm-hmm.
The Negro women were allowed to sit down, but the waitress ignored them and served the white women. One of the colored women protested and was told that she could eat in the kitchen.
Out of this coffee shop, you can go eat in the kitchen.
You can go eat in the kitchen. This one here. Check this one out. A wealthy Negro real estate dealer, active in civic affairs, went into a downtown cocktail lounge after an evening at the theater. The waiter told him that a bottle of ginger ale would cost $10.
Back then.
Yeah, that's extortion to the nth degree, right? Or price gouging to the nth degree. The Negro proffered the money without complaining. Here you go. The waiter, angry because his dodge had not worked, called the proprietor. The proprietor summoned the police. The Negro, citing the civil rights law, demanded that the policeman arrest the proprietor. The officer refused on the grounds that he didn't believe the civil rights law made failure to serve Negroes a misdemeanor. Several city officials also subsequently refused to issue a warrant. The Negro took the case into civil court and won his suit, though the affair cost him more than the amount he received in judgment. He made his point.
Yeah, he did make his point. He lost money doing it.
He lost money doing it. Okay. Read one more of these. Okay. This one. The city's hotel managers, by general agreement, do not sanction the use of hotel facilities by Negroes, particularly sleeping accommodations. When the issue is pressed, however, as in the case of visiting conventions or athletic teams, the barriers are sometimes relaxed. Most of the hotel cases in recent years have resulted from attempts to discriminate against Negroes who were attending meetings or visiting guests in the hotels. A number of such cases have reached the courts in recent years. One of the most unusual was the case of a Negro labor leader who, en route to a meeting in a downtown hotel, was told to use the freight elevator. He sued the hotel. The manager settled the case out of court by paying a lump sum and giving the defendant a written promise that such incidents would not recur. Do you think it occurred again? You doggone right it occurred again. Okay. Let me see. Where is that one at? Right here. Right here. Legally, a Negro has a right to service anywhere the public generally is served. Wisely, he does not ask for it. There has been an illegal, non-legal, or extra-legal adjustment founded upon common sense, which has worked in the past and it will work in the future. This is horrible. But yet, we fled to the north because it's better. We fled to the north because Roosevelt and the New Deal said, I'm gonna give you all jobs. But when you read this book, huge percentages of the wealth went where? To the Caucasian. Okay. Let me go here. Okay. The job ceiling. Okay. Individual Negroes have never been allowed to compete on absolutely equal terms for jobs in Midwest metropolis. Before the Great Migration, custom regulated the majority of them to servant occupations, and trade union barriers reinforced the custom. Between the First World War and the Depression, the bulk of the Negro population became concentrated in the lower paid, manual, hazardous, and relatively unpleasant jobs. You got the grunt of the work. You got what no one else wants to do. Okay. The last one, and then we're gonna move away from this book. One more bit of what he gives us in this book. Okay, come on. There we go. Black ghetto. He says the strongest visual evidence of a color line in Midwest metropolis is the existence of a black belt. Meaning this is where you live and you don't go outside of this boundary.
That's right.
Of the city's 337,000 Negroes, over 90% out of every 100 live in areas predominantly Negro. It is not unusual for a language, nationality, or racial group to begin life in the city as a colony. The distinctive thing about the Black Belt is that while other such colonies tend to break up with the passage of time, the Negro area becomes increasingly more concentrated. By 1940, this area in Chicago had virtually ceased to expand in size, but new migrants to the city were pouring into it, and very few Negroes were trickling out into other parts of the city. The ghetto. Okay. Yeah. So with that being said, I want to go here. Bear with me. Bear with me. Do ghettos still exist today?
Absolutely.
Where are they? Where do we find them?
In any city in America.
Well, here's an article from 2017. And this article headline: these are the 10 most ghetto cities in America for 2017. Okay. Cleveland.
Mhm.
He says this article is an opinion based on facts and is meant as infotainment. Don't freak out. Okay. Let's get, here we go. Here it is numbered: Cleveland, Miami, Detroit, Hartford. I'm assuming that's Hartford, Connecticut.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Dayton, Ohio, San Bernardino, California, Birmingham. Look at that. St. Louis is number 8. Because this is not talking about St. Louis, Minnesota. This is St. Louis, Missouri,
Mississippi.
Jackson, Mississippi, and Brownsville. I believe this is Illinois. Okay. So this is 2017. This is 2017. Okay. Oh, I did have one more thing in that book I wanted to share, I believe it looks like.
Road snacks. Ghetto city. St. Louis and its cousin or sister city, Jackson, Mississippi, right in that list.
Okay. One more thing from this book. I thought that was the last thing, but
I want to say sister city because that's
where most of us came from.
well, maybe, but I know my mom, her sisters, they all came from there. A lot of them migrated up here to St. Louis.
Yeah, right. Okay, this paragraph here. I'll take a look at this paragraph. The persistence of a black belt whose inhabitants can neither scatter as individuals nor expand as a group is no accident. It is primarily the result of white people's attitudes toward having Negroes as neighbors.
Uh-huh.
Because some white Chicagoans do not wish colored neighbors, formal or informal social controls are used to isolate the latter within congested all Negro neighborhoods. And this is true today. This is true today. Property values for whites are higher than property values for blacks. When you sell a house, the appraiser will come out and appraise that house at a lower rate if there's any sign that the house is owned by blacks versus if you get your white friend to be present when that appraiser comes around, that house appraises much higher. So these tactics, these color line tactics, still exist. In the last 4 years or such, we have a new phrase in America: Karen and Ken.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
And we see the Karens telling blacks what the blacks can do and what they cannot do. The color line still exists.
Do you live here?
Do you live here?
Oh, that key is not for real. You
Right. Right. Okay. So I want to go back to the video. I'm gonna go back to that video and show just a couple more things on that video. We almost done. Okay. All right. I want to point out this bullet right here that because in this he's talking about education. And so here is this Caucasian. It says, in 1914, William H. Baldwin, president of the General Education Board, said, the South needed Negroes educated so that they could be the best possible laborers. With the right kind of education, Negroes will willingly work menial jobs and open up opportunities for Southern whites to work the more expert labor. Right? So he's echoing what Caton said in the book just seconds ago. Okay. Now,
just systematically. I mean, it's the gall of, I want to say science. Oh yeah, I was getting ready to say. I was saying, so they systematically with I mean, just, I can't even think of the word. I want to say scientifically, because it's like they had this stuff down to a science.
right?
And I will call it the science of business. Well, yeah, the science of business and the science of just being evil.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
To systematically oppress us. They knew what they were doing all the time, but then turn around and say, y'all built this country on y'all backs, but you lazy niggas.
Right.
You know,
Right.
I mean, it goes back to being a devil because, man, I could go on talking about this, but let's go on.
Okay, so let's watch this last little segment of what Sean Rochester has to share out. Okay.
Which you will get. So where are we now? You know, the Black community has $1.5 trillion less in revenue than we otherwise should relative to our portion of the population. $1 trillion of that associated with business income, 520 billion associated with personal income, right? We talked about the missing net worth. We talked about the 6 million jobs and 1.4 million businesses with employees that are missing. Get a sense of how it's been difficult to invest in those things. And we're trapped in this thing that I call like a 2% economic framework. Now, when I was doing research for the book, this number 2% kept coming up again and again and again and again. And it turned out that in areas really critical to wealth accumulation, we seem to be hovering around 2% representation. So less than 2% of corporate supply chain spend is spent on Black enterprise. Less than 2% of government supply chain spend is spent on Black enterprise. Less than 2% of African-American spend, right? So we do a horrible job of spending money on our own businesses. And then when you think about really high growth, high paying occupations, whether it's in the tech sector or it's in Silicon Valley or it's, management at in the financial industry, so on and so forth, our representation tends to be around 2%. Thinking about STEM careers, tends to be around 2% Black doctors, 2% Black males, so on and so forth. It goes on. There's a couple pages I dedicate just to the occurrence of these things. In terms of our deposits in banks, we less than 2% is in Black financial enterprises. Actually, if you look at the U.S. banking system, only $4 out of every $10,000 in the banking system is in a Black bank. There's just simply not enough capital in those banks to provide the loans. So the deposits in those banks provide the capital for businesses. Less than 2% of SBA loans goes to Black enterprise. It's actually a lot less than 1%. So all of this provides a really negative impact, depressive impact on job creation and business development in the Black community. So you can get a real sense of how is it that after all this time, we're only at a point of accumulating about 2% of U.S. wealth, right? One thing that I want to talk about.
Okay, and so there you have it. There you have his scholarly perspective of what's going on with us, why we are only 2%. We have a 2% wealth accumulation, given 400 years being on this soil. Go to Hosea. Go to the book of Hosea, chapter 4, verse 6. Go ahead.
The book of Hosea, chapter 4, and verse 6. My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. Because thou hast rejected knowledge, I will also reject thee. That thou shalt be no priest to me. Seeing thou hast forgotten the law of thy God, I will also forget thy children.
So we have to return. We have to repent from iniquity and start keeping the laws according to knowledge, not according to tradition of men, but according to knowledge. The Sabbath day is sundown Friday to sundown Saturday. Sunday is nowhere in the Bible, with the exception around the time, correct, around the time of waving the sheaf offering, which is at the time period of the Passover. That's it. That's it. Outside of that, so when you read in Acts that they came together on the first day, that was the reason why. Had nothing to do with, oh, Christ died and so he rose on Sunday. No. According to knowledge. We know that you have a zeal. We know you have a zeal. Heck, the Pew Research
shows that
shows that you got a zeal. Shoot, you believe in something, but it's not according to knowledge. It's according to your whims and to your own lusts. Okay, so now let me show this here. Okay, bear with me. Try to get to it. Bear with me. Don't give up on me.
Oh, yeah. But I was just writing down when I was talking about them wanting to have this science of business in the way they would, according to this statistics that we were looking at. That's part of that. What? Let me see. Let me go here to. I think that's Psalms 83 and 3. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people, and has consulted against thy hidden ones. And we are those hidden people, but that is talking about. But the crafty counsel is the things that they would do to us systematically to oppress us, to just destroy us because of the perpetual hatred that they have for us. And that's what made me think about Psalms 83 and 3 with that crafty counsel. That's part of the curses that come from within that cluster of the curses in the book of Deuteronomy. Deuteronomy 28:15 and there on down through 68. Yeah.
That's right. The curses are upon us. These curses are so real, we don't understand that. We just don't understand it. And then we don't care.
Mm-hmm. So my people, we just have to, if we do anything, or don't do it, but if we do anything, we have to understand our book. It's our Constitution. It's written by us, for us, to us. Is what we have to use to overcome anything that they decide to use as crafty counsel, because nobody's counsel can overdue with God's counsel, of the, counsel of the Most.
All praises. So with what the man, Sean Rochester just shared out, the 2%, the next question that I want us to explore is, where do we work? He said that we would be that the one guy in 1914 said, teach them to have manual labor jobs. And then in the book, the same thing was spoken. So where do we work currently? Now, this is coming from the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. Okay. Blacks in the labor force, this is February 2018. Okay. February is Black History Month, when we celebrate the contributions of Blacks or African Americans. In 2016, Blacks accounted for nearly 1 out of 8 people in the labor force. All right. So now let's go down. There's this chart here that shows where we work. And this chart, so it says occupations with the largest concentration of Black or African American workers age 16 and older, annual average 2016. This is as of 2016. So where are we? We are in office and administrative support occupations with 13.8%. We are in sales-related occupations, 9.7. Transportation and material moving occupations, 9.5. Management occupations, 7.2. Food preparation, 6.5. Production, 6.1. Healthcare, 5.9. Healthcare support, 5.4. Personal care and service occupation, 5.1. Teachers, library, 5.0. Now, we may be asking, well, what is some of this? So this office administrative, because this is where the largest chunk of us are, whereas the whole U.S. population only 11%, but we're there 13%. Okay, so what is it? This includes job. Oh, that ain't enlarged. It did it. Oh, I went the wrong way. This includes administrative service and facility managers, bill and account collectors, bookkeeping, customer service representatives, desktop publishing, financial clerks, information clerks, post office workers, receptionists, bank tellers. That's what this category is. Okay. Which is this first category that we were looking at. Sales and related occupations, we talk, car sales. Here, the examples: first line supervisors of non-retail sales workers, first line supervisors of retail sales workers, gambling, change persons and booth cashiers, etc. Okay, so this is what we're talking about: sales, telemarketing, door-to-door sales, real estate brokers, sales. Okay, and so what's that? That's 9.7% of us in that category. Transportation, we understand that one. Management occupation, we understand that one. food preparation, we understand that one. You're working at Panda Express, you're working at Applebee's, and what have you. Okay. Production occupation, that's dealing with the manufacturing of things, manufactured goods. Okay. Now, the question, why are we not pursuing STEAM categories? STEM. And they've updated it to STEAM. Science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics. Okay. Why so few eager students will earn a STEM degree? See. And I'm arguing this is where the concentration of education needs to be. This is where the focus needs to be. Instead of Johnny being on the basketball team and being on the football team, take him to Kuhlman's tutoring for math. Many high school students intend to major in a STEAM field in college, but most of them won't be able to handle the rigorous courses they'll need to earn a degree in science, technology, engineering, and math. That's the conclusion of a new report by ACT, the testing giant. The organization's study suggests that only 26% of high school seniors who expressed an interest in STEAM fields were academically ready for tough first-year STEAM classes in college. The findings represent troubling news for the legions of high school students who hope to pursue one of these challenging majors. According to ACT, 49% of 1.9 million graduating high school seniors who took the ACT exam in 2015 expressed an interest in majoring in a STEAM field. Okay. And the article goes on. Let's look at the percentages, because the percentages are startling. Of Blacks, African Americans, only 5% pursue STEAM field degrees. Of GAD, because this is Israel as well, 8%. Asians, 49%. Hispanics, now this is Israel. This is the Northern Kingdom, 13%. Whites, 32%. Why is this huge? Why is this huge? The reason this is huge is because everything that we use, cell phones, cell towers, automobiles, all these things come from folks who move and operate in this area. Now, one last article. Civil engineering, demographics, and statistics in the US. Now, civil engineer, these are the folks who they are the ones that build your city. They go and they check out the land, they survey the land, they understand where the roads should go, they understand where the buildings should go, they understand where the bridges should go. These are the ones that build a city. Research summary. Let's get right down to it. There are over 110,559 civil engineers currently employed in the United States. 16.4% of all civil engineers are women, while 83 are men. Let's get to the nitty gritty. Right here is what we want. The nitty gritty. The nitty gritty. We'll read the whole blurb. The most common ethnicity of civil engineers is white, 68.7%, followed by Asians, 14.3%, Hispanic or Latino, 10.1%, Black or African American, 4.3%. The problem is we don't have the skills to develop our own paradise. We are lacking the skills, and we're not gearing our children up with the skills so that our children know how to build our paradise, to build our roads, our infrastructure. The infrastructure. Where is the best place for the hospital to go? Where is the best place for the supermarket to be? Where is the best place for the cows to roam? Knowing that we are going to, in turn, milk that cow, knowing that in return, we're going to slaughter that cow for its meat production. We lack that knowledge and skill. We say we want to be kings. What's up, king? What's up, king? Go to Revelation chapter 1, verse 6.
Book of Revelation, chapter 1 and verse 6. And had made us kings and priests unto God and his Father. To him be glory and dominion forever and ever. Amen.
Now, if we believe the Bible says that Christ made us kings. Christ made us kings. Yet, we have no land. So what are we ruling? What do we rule? We have no land. We lack these essential skills so that we could go and purchase some land, even if we have to purchase degraded land. But if we had the skills, we could purchase that degraded land and turn it into something that was fruitful. If we had the skills, we need to change our focus and get the right education. That's why we went to Hosea 4 and 6. Our education must start with the laws. And from there, the education needs to be developing our skills. Okay? And with this, we say shalom, share the video, subscribe to the channel, leave your comments, leave your questions, leave your concerns, leave it all in the comments below, and we'll get to you. All right, with that, we say shalom, Most High, and Christ bless.